Everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo shopping live stream where we go online and look for deals together. And also, it's just an open photo chat, open Q&A, particularly if it's about any kind of gear you might be shopping for. And full disclosure, I'm an affiliate for most of the things we'll be talking about today, whether it's Amazon, B&H, or wherever. Sometimes I'm an affiliate for those, so I may earn a commission if you decide to use my links. And wow. So let me just start out with I've been shopping hard for uh, tripod solutions to do panoramas, specifically multi row panoramas. So that requires a lot of, with some precision. I mean, software handles a lot of things pretty well, but to get the very best precision out of your panoramas, particularly with like architecture and street type panoramas, multi row. Uh, you really get a good head start with the stitching when everything is lined up properly and aligned and all of that. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I went out this morning and I was trying something new that really simplifies everything. It's about a $200 solution, but then a decent tripod with a, somewhat precision uh, fluid head and leveling base and to be lightweight and everything is going to run you a couple $100. But I'll walk through a couple of solutions if you guys are interested in that. I can talk about that for a little bit and what I found so far. And so let's just go to my deals page and let's see. Let me move this window here so I can make sure that my audio and video looks okay, at least on my end. And then I have this page open, and I have links down below to my deals page. So that'll take you to this page here. But if you click on this part right here, let me enlarge this a bit. If you click up here, this will take you to all of my curated lists. I typically update these two the most more recently. This one is pretty good too, uh, but there's really interesting gear throughout this general page of curated lists. This things change so fast; it's hard to keep up with all of them, but I try to. But in today, I wanted to show you a few deals I picked out, and you know, the, there's a couple lenses here. The Canon RF 50 millimeter. This is a good deal. If you have a Canon RF mount, this is a great lens for the money. The Nifty 50 is kind of the staple. This should be generally most people recommend this to be your very first prime lens because it kind of does it all. It's just wide enough to do normal street photography, but it's tight enough that if you get closer, you can do some really nice portraits as well. I don't have this lens yet for my Canon, but I'm thinking about it because I don't use the Canon very much. So I'm thinking, how often would I really use this lens? Because I already have the 24 to 105 kit lens, and that seems to be good enough for what I'm doing. But if I were a Canon user, or primarily Canon user, this would definitely be in my bag right now, no question. Uh, okay, and then for Micro Four Thirds, this is also a very good portrait lens. This will give you 70 millimeter equivalent, and there's a 30% coupon here that you have to kind of, uh, go to this page, and then you find the right one. I think it's one of these. This is the Olympus. So if you add this to your cart, you'll get 30% off. So that would be, let's see, my brain is not working today. So 139 times 0.7. So this lens is $97.30. So that's a good deal for something like this. It's a very fast aperture, 1.2. So on micro four thirds, what that means is, for low light photography, of course, and videography, 1.2 is a great aperture. In terms of depth of field, it's a 2.4, but in practice, what that means is that pretty much everything will be in focus from the tip of the nose, if you're doing a portrait, to the back of the head, just to give you some idea of what a 1.2 will do. If you're taking pictures of two people and they're on the same focal plane, the depth of field's obviously identical to what I just said, front of the nose and the back of the head. But if they're standing a little bit off from each other, from a different focal plane, 1.2 is actually going to be too narrow. So you'll need to stop this lens down to, like, I would say f2 to 2.8. 2.8 would be better. And then if it's like 3, 4, 5 people, you really need to stop down to f4 to be sure that everybody's in focus. Uh, but this is it's not going to be the sharpest lens. It's manual focus, but $97 for fast prime and 7 artisans. It's making very durable lenses. It's very compact. You can see it just has a 46 millimeter filter thread, so it's not going to take any room in your bag. And you can also, not just for landscapes and things, not just for portraits and things, but you can use it for even landscapes where a lot of people like to do tight field of view on a landscape. Is very popular now. Very simple design, 6 elements and 5 groups with 10 aperture blades. So the bokeh should be very smooth if you decide to go for a deep depth of field. And it has a 1.2 meter minimum focusing distance. So it's not a close focusing lens. You're gonna need some distance, right? 1.2 meters. So you're not going to get any magnification worth mentioning. But like I said, $97. You can't complain, really. Okay. And then they have various other lenses here as well if you want to check them out. I didn't see anything of particular interest to me. You know, I would kind of pass on all of these. This one is maybe remotely interesting. This would be for a very, very tight headshot, right? This would be very difficult to use to do from the waist up. This would be your typical headshot type lens. Again, very fast. You would stop this lens down if you went from the nose to the back of the head. You would have to stop this lens down also to about 2.8 to get just enough depth of field so everything's in focus. But at 30% off, this lens would be 109. Whoops. This lens would be $76.30. So definitely a good deal, right? For fast, prime, manual focus. This one's in silver. They might have the black one on sale. Yeah, there's the black one. Here's the silver one. And everything else looks pretty normal. So those are the two lenses for Micro Four Thirds I'd recommend. All right, this tripod, uh, Artisites, I've never used this brand before, but I'm looking at the quality of this tripod just based on the pictures. This is sight unseen. But at $135 to get a tripod of these specific qualities, 44-pound weight limit, 62 inches high. So it's pretty high. It'll come up to this high without an extension pole. So the base is already at 62 inches, which would come to about my chin. I'm 5'8", right? So it would come to my chin. And that's, a very desirable height for doing landscapes. Also, the carbon fiber tubing here is very thick. It has a 32.5 millimeter at the thickest one, and then the smallest one is 0.22 millimeter. So this is the typical tripod. Travel tripods are typically like they have a 25 millimeter tube, which is sort of one of the bottom legs on this. So this is a very, very sturdy and relatively large tripod, but still very compact because there's no center column. You can compact this down very, very thin, right, in terms of diameter. So it still packs up very nicely, as they've demonstrated here in this backpack. The overall height, do they list that? Let's see if they list the height when it's. They list the height here at 62, so you can see it's very tall, or 156 centimeters. They don't show the collapsed height. Sometimes they list it down here. But I would suspect this is in the 25-inch range. Yeah, they don't list the collapsed height, but it's going to be pretty tall. Because if you look at this image here, it's already 21.2 inches with the leg extended. So you want to add about maybe 3-4 inches when you close the leg. So it's probably about a 25-inch, height overall. So about 2 feet. Okay, but yeah, to get a tripod, and there's no head, so you're going to need your own head, and we'll talk about different heads. But this is a good deal for um, a tripod that has these kinds of qualities, right? Or these kinds of specifications. Okay, and then there's a couple flashes on sale. They have these are available in the various camera brands. $179 for the Godox V860. This is the rectangular head. Uh, and it has a modeling light on the front, which helps with low light autofocusing. And of course, I'm a big fan of the Godox brand. I've been using them for years and years and years. No problems at all, save for the TT350. I can talk about that if you want, mainly because it's a little bit underpowered for focus stacking, although it is still, usable. Um, but the V863, excellent flash. It's an excellent flash. And it's at a good deal right now, $179. And this is the round head version. It's $20 more. The round head version is not any more powerful. In fact, it's actually effectively a little bit less powerful because it spreads the light a little more evenly. So some people prefer that, a more even distribution of the light. It's more round, it's more even, the spread is very nice. So the trade-off is it doesn't have quite as much reach. So if you do portraits and a lot of studio work, the round head is a better deal. You want to go for this. Also for interiors, doing if you do real estate photography and you're shooting inside, you know, uh, rooms and things, I would recommend the round head. These no longer really have the magnetic mount anymore. Particularly if you see a red ring on here, they're not going to have the magnetic mount. You can, a lot of times they include the magnetic mount separately that you can swap out. I don't see it on this particular one, but you can buy them separately for like $5 or $10 if you need to. But they're coming up with adapters now that work with the round heads that you don't need the magnetic mount. And I rarely use any of the magnetic mounts. I occasionally use the diffuser, but it's not as big a loss as you would think. So here's an example. This is the Canon version. This has the round head with the red ring. And again, I don't see that they're including the magnetic ring separately. This is the Pro version, though. That's why this is quite a bit more expensive. I don't recommend the Pro version unless you're doing event photography, where you're firing flashes, you're firing flash constantly, right, for events and doing rapid fire. This basically has better heat management, so you get faster recycle times as you get into higher temperatures, and it'll last longer. So, if I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, but I got about 30 flashes, maybe 40, with the regular standard V1 before it overheated, and I think this one went 60 to 100 flashes. Basically, it's double. You know, you can get twice as many flashes at fast recycle times as you can with the non-pro version. And that's really the key difference between the two is the overheating. This also includes a front fill-in flash. Very, very limited use on this. Uh, so I wouldn't get this flash because it has that. There's lots of examples online of people showing this, you know, how it fills gives a little front fill flash when you're using the top part of the flash bouncing off. It's okay. The problem is the round head on top and the fill-in flash on the front are not synced, meaning you have to adjust the power separately on them. So uh, you cannot use that flash in TTL. This flash here is the biggest handicap, and the extremely limited use is very, very niche. Uh, but so I wouldn't buy the Pro Flash because of the front fill-in flash. I would get the Pro Flash, particularly if you need the rapid refire and overheating protection. This also has an option for. Let me just double check on the other flashes here. It's hard to remember everything. Okay, the Pro Flash also has an option to attach external power supplies. As you can, they didn't. As you can see here, it has a power port here. Godox makes one. I'm sure it's compatible with other power banks. You just have to make sure you have the right plug. But the Godox one is pretty reasonably priced, and this will give you virtually unlimited uh, firing. And the use case for something like this, obviously for events, but you know, I recommend for events just get a couple extra batteries and swap them out as your power gets low. That's the easiest, most portable solution. And this solution here is very, very useful when you have the mounts lighted on very high stands or you have them mounted in different places in a room where they're going to be stay there for the whole event, for example, like on a stage and at an event. Then this is very, very useful. You'll get very, very fast recycle times, and you don't have to go up to the stage or take the light stand down to swap batteries, right? You're going to be able to go all day long with an external power supply. So there are use cases for this. If you're an event photographer or doing stage work, this is very, very useful, but it's very limited again, right? If you need that kind of versatility, then you need to get this Pro model to be able to use the external packs. Uh, this backpack, half price, looks to be very high quality. $77. It's on a smaller size, so you can see the dimensions here. But it's pretty thick. It's 7.28 inches or 185 millimeters, and it's pretty wide at 13 inches and 16 and a half. So this I would call this a medium-sized bag. And what I like about this, it comes with plenty of dividers, and they're fully adjustable. So you get 7 dividers here. There's a couple of nice pockets here inside as well. And then on the back, uh, you also have a slip here for a laptop. This will probably fit at least a 14, if not a 15-inch laptop. I think a 16 might be pushing it, but maybe because it is 13 inches wide overall. Sometimes they tell you here, not always. They didn't say what size laptop. but I like the materials. This is a very, very nice, pleather or vinyl. I hate to use the word vinyl because it sounds cheap, but this is actually really nice looking material here. The stitching looks all really nice. I can see some nice cross stitching here. The only the only thing I don't see on this backpack, there's two issues I have with this backpack. Well, three. These are not deal breakers for me, right? Uh, but one is the side pockets here don't look like they're expandable. So I don't know if you can fit a water bottle in there or not without compressing the inside of the bag a little bit. So you may be able to fit a bottle in there if your bag's not completely full. But this looks like something that you could only fit like maybe two tripod legs in, which you normally do anyway. And that's about it, and some accessories and batteries. Okay. The other thing is I don't see any way to hang a tripod off the bottom or the back. Some bags have tripod straps on the bottom, and some have them on the back so that you can hang it off the back. Now, this backpack only gives you, the one option to put it on either side, right, of the bag. So that's a little bit limiting, but that may or may not be an issue for you. But that's one thing I noticed. Um, so the pockets and the tripod straps, those are the two things that are kind of missing on this. That for me would be not a deal breaker, but at this price point for this kind of quality, this is a good deal. But if you wait a little bit, sometimes you can find bags that have those other qualities at around this price point that are probably equivalent quality. It's hard to find a bag with this kind of sort of this polyurethane, whatever they want to call it, material. It also has these. They're not claiming these are YKK zippers, but they are rubberized, so it's gonna be very rain resistant. But yeah, I like this backpack, the styling. So as you know, a lot of things we buy, right, are because of the styling. And I like the styling of this. It's very functional. It looks like it's very well made. This brand Mega Gear, I know makes very good stuff, right? At least I've bought a couple of half leather cases from them, and they've turned out to be very, very nice. So I would expect this brand to also make a very nice backpack, albeit slightly limited with the side pockets and the tripod straps on the bottom. The one thing they don't show, and I couldn't find a picture of it, was the bottom of the bag. On the bottom of the bag, I like to see. Let me just check one more time, but yeah. The bottom of the bag, I don't see it, but I always like to see if they have rubber feet on the bottom. So when you set the bag down, it stands, it stands up straight a little easier. Because sometimes when you overpack your bag, the bottom kind of gets bowed a little bit from the weight, and then the bag doesn't stand up straight when you set it down. This bag here, it looks to be fairly rigid, so you probably be able to stand it up straight anyway. But I can't confirm one way or the other if it has rubberized feet on the bottom, which is I prefer to have mainly to protect the bottom of the bag from scratches and wear and tear, and also for stability when I set the bag down straight. Okay, I would say this is an excellent deal. $200 for a 14 terabyte external drive. I'm seriously considering this right now. Although I have enough hard drive space, I think to last me another quarter, like 3 or 4 more months. This would solve a lot of issues for me in terms of my cable management, right? Because I have multiple, like 4 and 5 terabyte drives, but also access to drives so that I can go back, so I can have more backups. or an easier workflow for my backups. Because my workflow now for my backups is sometimes I have to pull out another drive, unplug a drive, put it in. When you start to get years and years of photos, this would solve some of that workflow for me. And it's a great deal. So eventually I'm going to get a large drive. The largest one I have now, I think, is 6 terabytes. Eventually I'm going to get a large drive, but I've been able to manage without it up to now. But for $200, I might have to splurge on that. Okay, and then I see a couple of questions here. I'll get to them in just a minute. I just wanted to cover a couple other things. Um, I have the Scorp C, which was the previous model of this. This is the newer version. It has an OLED screen now. This is a great gimbal. It's relatively compact. I'll show you the version that I have. This is mine. It's the same thing, but it's the previous version. But it's relatively compact in terms of height, so it fits easier in a backpack. Right? You're going to need a large backpack for any gimbal, but this is a lot easier to put in. Some gimbals, even a large backpack, you would need like a 30, 40-liter backpack for some of the larger gimbals and all your camera gear. But this will fit like in a 25 to 30-liter backpack, no problem. And not take up too much room, right? So you still have room for all your gear. And it comes with an app. But what I'm doing with this now, and we'll get into this if you want, is I'm using this for my landscapes now because the app, when you use the app for this, it has a panorama mode where it'll automatically do multi-row panoramas for you. And then using this TRS plug here, this 2.5 millimeter TRS, it'll automatically take the picture for you as well. And I tested it on my EM5 Mark III this morning. I'll show you the images from that. So the only issue that I ran into this morning, and it's fixable, but to balance the gimbal, you have to balance the gimbal, right? You're not going to be able to really set the nodal point on the lens if you balance the gimbal properly. However, if you do want to set the nodal point, you would slide this rail back a little bit, right? And you would have to turn the power of the motor up higher so the motors are stronger. Not by much, just a little bit. And it has an auto feature to automatically do that for you. But I tend to just turn the power up to maximum. And I didn't have any problems. But I need to do more than just a couple of panels. I need to do this, over the next few weeks and practice and get the workflow down. But you can buy this gimbal for like $185 now, right? Because it has a $15 coupon here. And of course, it's very useful for video work. If you're a videographer, you'll love using a gimbal. But uh, I'm thinking for $185, you can get a fully automated panorama system. Instead of spending, because I've seen like motorized pano heads that cost $1,000, $2,000. To get one that will do what this does will run you about $500 or $600 at a minimum. At a minimum. The only difference being is that those allow you to set the nodal point without any problem because the motors are a little bit stronger in those $600 motorized pano heads. But this, like I said, if I set the power of the motors up high enough, like I just set them to maximum because I'm not worried about battery life. I found that I was able to set the nodal point for the lens because that throws the balance off, right, a little bit. But I'm gonna have to do this consistently and make sure that I don't run into any problems. But so far, I'll give you an example. Um, I was just testing here in my room. I got tons of stitching errors here, but I was doing that manually, not with the gimbal. I was doing that by hand. But these are the kind of stitching errors you get like this when you don't have the nodal point set correctly and you don't have your base level. If you don't have a level base, you don't have nodal point set, you're going to have some hardcore stitching errors. And software can only do so much, right? I haven't tried PT GUI, which is sort of the top of the line stitching software. I'm trying to use free software or Photoshop to see if I can get the stitching right. But this was definitely a problem. But let's see. Let me go down to, let me refresh this. So I did a couple this morning. Just of my house. Let me let this all load. Where are they? Did Photoshop not finish? Let me check something. Photoshop. Oh, it didn't export this. Let me export this to, okay. This is the Photoshop stitching job. I haven't seen how it did. It looks like it did a good job. And I see the Godox IM30. It just came in this morning. Uh, so we'll check. Okay, so that's done. Oops. All right, here's the Photoshop version. And it's been downsized a little bit. It's a little bit of barrel distortion here, but I'm not seeing any stitching errors. I need to paint my roof. A lot of times the cables, like power lines and phone lines, you have to watch these. But yeah, I don't see any stitching errors. This is really good. That's pretty awesome. So what I would do is I would bring this into Lightroom or Photolab and just fix that slight barrel distortion. I just see a little bit right here. Very, very slight. Maybe not. Maybe my house is just warped a little bit. But it feels like there's a slight barrel distortion here in the stitching. But this is what I did with the gimbal this morning. This is a 30 shot. 30, okay? Shots with this, the EM5 Mark III 40 to 150 kit lens. At this one was at 70, I set it to 75 millimeters. The image was actually 22,000 pixels wide by, forget what it was. Um, this was, let's do, export as. It'll tell me over here on the left side. 22,000 by 12,000. So what is that? That's 22,581 times 12792. 288 megapixel image. Okay, Uh, sorry, 288 megapixel image. Exported, the image is only 14998 times 8496. So it's 127 megapixel image. And if we zoom in, I can read this sign. I can't read the fine print here, but I can definitely read this. Oops. I mean, all the way into that one little spot there. So the detail you can capture, this is with just a kit lens, okay? And if I were to do high-res shot mode, all of that, I would even got more detail. But this is 30 images stitched together. It took about 4 minutes for the gimbal to go through its process because I had to set up delays and self-timers and things to make everything so I didn't get motion blur. And I'll do a video about this once I get the workflow down. But this was pretty amazing. I'm pretty impressed with that. This image here, this image I used the free stitching software and I got a stitching error. The same set of 30 images, but you can see I got a little stitching error right here. That's the only one I could find in the image. Everything else came out okay. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix this in the free software. So if you don't have if you don't have Photoshop, there's free stitching out there, free stitching software out there that you can use, and 90% of the time it does a perfect job. But when I find a stitching error, I have to kind of go back in and make a little adjustment, and then I'm good. But overall, uh, the difference is this one did not create that sort of slight barrel distortion. If anything, it looks like there's a little bit of a pin cushion distortion in this particular stitching job. But this is all easily corrected. These were just kind of quick and dirty ones I did before I did the stream this morning. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to go to the chat now and answer any questions there. And then if you have any questions about any of the things that I showed you today, or if you're looking for something, we can shop together and try and find a good deal. Or if you need some recommendations and what to look for in purchasing any kind of gear, I'll do my best to answer those questions as well. So I'm going to go up to the chat now. Sorry, let me go in here, and I see Jeff is here. Good to see you, Jeff, and Stuart. Good to see you, and Paul, Marco, always good to see you. Ethan, good to see you, and ATR Bear, of course, and Wands, hello. And okay, so Ethan's asking any deals for small continuous LED lighting. I've been using the Godox LED M32s for my macro work, and they die after a few months of charging. Wow. Yeah, that's, because you figure those batteries only have about 500 recycles in them technically. You can usually, I've always been able to get a little more. Not that I've ever counted, right? But it seems like I've been using the same battery for anyway. To get to your question, continuous lighting. I'm not sure how you're using the LED M32s, but let me look at that light because I've thought about this a lot myself, right? Um, Let me just look at the LED M32s first, and then I can get a better feel for, because if you're looking for something uh, similar, okay, that's this guy right here. Wow, they're cheap. Honestly, it's $16. I'm surprised these are bright enough for you though, because these are typically only 5 watts, these lights. So lithium ion, yeah, this is a 5 watt light, I'm sure. That's 1.1 watt hour, 3.7 volts at 300, maybe 10 watts. What did they say? The power says 1.4 watts here. So these are very, very low power, 1.4 watts. Okay, let me, so I assume your hand holding the light, or maybe you have it on a selfie stick when you're doing your macro work, and you're just trying to get just enough light onto the subject. Uh, Amazon's recommending, let's see what Amazon's recommending. I would skip things like this. These are always interesting. $20, Lonzi V28. So let's see what this is, if this is the same wattage. This is a little smaller. One hundred and 20 lumens at 0.5. There's no consistency in how they talk about the luminance of these things. I've always liked these things personally, because these you can stack, right? They got the or cold shoe mounts along the side and top here. This has a 2200 milliamp battery. So that's roughly what, 8 times, almost 8 times the battery. And I guarantee this is a 5 watt light. Let's see what they say here. They don't say, but this is a 5 watt light, and it's USB-C chargeable. It has a much bigger battery, and there's an additional 10% off here. So I would go for this light. 96 beads, 2200 CRI. It's also bicolor, so you can adjust the Kelvin temperature. You don't normally need to worry about that too much in macro work, but yeah, I would get this one right here. And it's a small rig brand, right? So I think that's a good deal. So small rig. So there's my affiliate link for the small rig. Um, but let me know if for some reason you don't like that particular choice and why. But that seems to be a decent light with a much larger battery, because the other battery was 300 milliamps or 1.1 watts. This one was 220 milliamps. I guarantee that's 5 watts. So roughly 3 times. Uh, Gosh, let me look at it again. Do they actually tell the voltage and all? It's hard to calculate the voltage and all that. But it's probably the same, 3.7 volts. Uh, Internally the battery's a 3.7 volt battery, then it's 2200 milliamps, but it's more. They don't always rate things the same. So I don't know the exact power of this battery, but it's definitely more. Okay. And Ethan says, the thing is, I need them to be small. The size of the Godox is perfect, and maybe I just need to consider them an expense rather than investment. Yeah, if you're using them 5 times a day for months, that's pretty good. But yeah, it has a tiny battery in there. I didn't see the dimensions of that. Uh, Let me go back to that Godox light. Oh, that is tiny. Based on this, it doesn't, it's not very big. I don't show the dimensions here, do they? 50 by 50 by 28. And the small rig, do they give the dimensions here? They don't give the dimensions, but yeah, this is definitely bigger than 50. This is typically this light. These lights are typically, I'm guessing, but that light is probably closer to 80 millimeters instead of 50. I don't see the dimensions listed. Let's see if they have it. Yeah, they don't list the dimensions, but I guarantee that these are at least 80 millimeters wide. This gives you some perspective, right? But this will give you a lot more light. I think for macro work, I would prefer a brighter light. Now, I've tried these little cute things, right? Uh, I mean, the Lanzi one here is pretty small, right? This one here. This is very small and it's cheaper. You can see how small this is. Look at the hot shoe, the hot shoe. So it's about double the size of the hot shoe. Do they give the dimensions? This has the same power. It's 1.4 watt light. This is another option and it's $3 cheaper for the same power, but it's not quite as large overall. So it's not going to be quite, but you're talking about macro work, so it's not a problem. Uh, this could be a viable option as well. So I would think about that. Um, I'll add this to my list. It's a 5% coupon on it, so you're gonna pay 13.95 minus 70 cents. It's still $14 with tax. I don't see. Whoops. I'll give you the link to that one too. That's just another option. If you want to try those, they're not very expensive. So you can try something like that. So there's the affiliate link for that one. Okay. But the challenge with these small lights, they're going to have small batteries and they're not going to have as many recycle times in them because there's just less chemistry inside of them because of the size. Okay. So the IM30 be connected to a phone. I don't think so. There's the Godox app, right? Let me see if I have that installed. I can't see anything. Or my glasses. Give me a second. What does Godox call their app? Hopefully they just call it Godox. Then I can find it easier. No, they don't. They call it something else. I have to look it up. Godox Lite, Godox Flash. I assume when you say connect to the phone, you mean via the app, right? Because Godox Lite, this is for the LEDs, I believe. Yeah. So we need the Godox Flash. So let me. Suppose I have this installed on my phone already, according to Google. G. I don't see it here though. Let me search. Oh, I do have it. All right, let's try and connect it. So I have the app. Where is the flash? It literally just came in this morning. I was charging it. Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Okay. Wow, I'm a little bit overexposed here. There, let's do that. So power it on. I've never connected a flash to my phone, to be honest. So that's that. Go into the deep settings. S1 TCM, sleep, power, screen brightness, language. What is that? Trigger distance? No. TCM. I don't see any settings in the flash itself. But let's do connect. Seriously, you're gonna make me log in? I've never even set up an account on this. Ugh, give me a second. I try to not use apps if I can help it. So the X2 series flash trigger firmware has important update. Okay. All right, let's try connect again and search. I don't see a Bluetooth thing on this flash. Most devices that connect, you have a Bluetooth setting somewhere. Because there's a wireless, but that's just channel. That's for controlling and receiving. And in the menu, trigger distance, S1, TCM, snooze, sleep, standby. How many different ways can you say the same thing? Okay. Agreement, language. And there's no separate button. So I don't see any way to connect this to the app. And when I search for it on the phone, it doesn't find it because I don't see any way to pair with the app. That's an awesome question. I never used the app personally, but I can see where a lot of people would. Okay. Last but not least, just to be thorough, nope, no manual included. Seriously? Oh, maybe. Hold on. What the heck is in here? Charging cable. Yeah, no manual. So it says here TTL, X wireless, touchscreen. And there's nothing on the box that indicates Bluetooth. There's no Bluetooth logos or anything on there. So I'm gonna have to say you cannot connect it to the phone, as far as I can tell. All right. Uh and beautiful house. Oh my God. It's very old, my house, as you can see. Probably hasn't been painted since it was built. I really seriously need to paint it. It's got all the original windows, which are wood and aluminum. Let's see. Thank you, Seraphin. Good looking house. Ethan says, they're tiny. I set them near the, okay, tiny macro subjects. Okay. So yeah, the little Godox IM32s. Maybe think about the Alonzi. See if they give you any better performance. And they certainly look smaller than the Godox one. They're more rectangular. And worth mentioning that the V1 misses out on the bounce versus the V860. So that's a valid point. The V860 though, uh, if you get the magnetic mount, they do sell the bounce card that mounts onto the magnetic mount, and it's actually more versatile. So, see if I have it. Yeah, I have the adapter. Where's the card? Oh, I don't know where the card went. So, but I'll demonstrate this with this way. Where's my flash? Okay. So if you happen to have the Godox flash with that still has the magnetic mount, and or you replace the ring here with a magnetic ring, because you can buy those separately. It comes with this adapter where you would put the bounce card. I'll just put this in here. Just as an example, you can use like a white piece of paper or uh, like a thin cardboard. Like I can use this, right? Just cut this piece out. This has a key advantage over, say, the V860 in that when you have this mounted to your camera, right, and you tilt it up, and this is how a V860 flash would work, right? You'd pull the card out and you would get this. With the V860, a lot of times when you're doing portraits, right, you do verticals. So your camera is this way, right? You're holding the camera. Well, if you have vertical grip, you're holding the camera this way, and the flash bounces this way. But this is now pointing, your main flash is now pointing to the side wall. So what you would have to do on a V860 is tilt it forward like this, and then the bounce card becomes kind of irrelevant, right? Where's my camera so I can just demonstrate this? I can just I'll just put it on here. So you're holding the flash this way. But yeah, V860, you pull a bounce card out, you're good. On the Godox round head, uh, you have to get this adapter and then you put the white card in here. It comes with a white card. I don't know where I put it. I never use it. But if you want to do a vertical, right, a portrait, then this head you can rotate. On a V860, the bounce card is now pointing over to your right. It's not pointing towards the subject. But with a V860, with this adapter, you can rotate this and take a picture this way. So now the bounce card is, now you're getting bounce light. You can even tilt it back a little bit if you want, or tilt it forward a little bit, right? But now the bounce card is facing forward. This is something you can't do with a V860, right? Because the bounce card's built in. Of course, there's other solutions, right? Diffusers and attachments and stuff, so you can do the same thing. But uh, this is this is one of the key advantages. Almost, I would say it natively because you can buy these. Versus a V860, your bounce card would be this way. So this gives you a little more flexibility. If I want to bounce it a little bit off to the right or a little bit off to the left, I can do that. I can point the flash maybe to the side wall and then have the bounce card come around again to the front. Something you can't do with a V860 with the rectangular head. But you make a valid point. I just wanted to show you an option for the V8 for the V1s that have the round heads. It's actually more flexible, but you have to buy this little $50 kit. The kit comes with a bunch of other stuff, including this. Okay. Uh, and Intrigue is here. Good to see you. And let's see. And thanks much. I'll see how those work. Okay, cool. Yeah, the was it the Olanzi? They're a little bit smaller, right? I assume they're USB-C, but your problem is not probably the length of the light. It's probably more with the uh, how many recycle times you get out of the battery. Okay, and D is here. How are you? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I'll just call you Day or D. I'll just say D. DP. How about DP? Okay, I'm doing well, thank you. I hope you're doing well. All right. And then Marco had the feedback. Let me read this one for Ethan. You may be better off getting something just a little larger with a bigger battery so you can run it at lower brightness and have to recharge it much less. That's a valid point, right? If size is not critical, if you can go with the bigger light, like I showed you, that that would make sense. Let me turn this off. I love this little IM30 already. I just got it in this morning. It only came in the Sony version, but the Olympus and all the other brands are going to be coming out in about a month. So hopefully they'll send me one of those too. I got the silver one. It comes in black also. But just to give you an idea how this looks on, say, an OM5, because we know the OM5 Mark II doesn't support the FLM3 anymore. And if you don't need weather sealing, this is a viable option for like I think this is going to be $80 or something. I don't know what the price is. This is a viable option. It doesn't have the tilt and all of that, but I never used the tilt on the FLM30. Granted, the FLM30 you can control other Olympus flashes, but if you're using Godox flashes, the FLM30 has very, very limited use, right? It's a lot less power than this, and this has the option to control other Godox flashes as well via the radio trigger built in. So again, at this point in flash technology, the FLM30, I never use it. Uh, I'll use something like this, or even I have the IM30. This is the IT30. I have the IM30, which is a manual version of this. It doesn't have the built-in triggers, uses AA batteries. I prefer the IM30. Uh, and I'll attach for my macro work, I got two different diffusers. For the on-camera flashes like this, I use this diffuser, which I'm sure all of you have seen this kind of thing before, right? And you just put this, I like the ones with the elastic in the middle. It's a little more snug fit on the lens, so it's not going to fall off. But I prefer something like this. And IM30 and IT30 have enough power to go through this and give you some nice diffusion. So this is my macro setup. Either the IM30, which is, in the box back there, but the FLM3 has weather sealing. That's the key difference. So if you're doing macro work and it's raining, this is not going to work, right? Because it's not weather sealed. But I'm a fair weather photographer anyway, for the most part. Only the Olympus flashes are weather sealed, right? So if you're in that weather sealed system, yeah, losing the FLM30 is an odd choice, I would say, for the OM5 Mark II. Yeah, the app's called Godox Photo. What app do I have? Let me double check. I have an app called Godox Flash, but let's see, Godox Photo. The app is called Godox Photo. I don't see that on my thing here. All I have is like Godox Light and Godox Flash, and then photo pills and all of that. So when I search Google Play, where is it? I have Android. I don't have an Apple. Maybe it's an Apple thing. Search. I'm gonna try and search one more time directly in the app or in the Play Store. Yeah, no, there's nothing there. It's just Godox Flash. That's all I have. Godox Light. So one is for flash, one is for LED, one is for microphones, and then it goes from there. Uh, so you must have like Apple. Like what do they call it? iPhone. You have an iPhone. Maybe on Apple they call it Google Photo, Godox Photo. And Mike says, do these third-party flashes take exposure control settings from the camera, or do you have to set the flash separately? Uh, so far, you have to be in TTL mode, and then it'll work with the camera, and you can set exposure compensation in the camera. You cannot set the flash settings directly from the camera. You have to be in TTL mode, and then all you can do is exposure compensation from there. But I rarely do that. I usually just set everything in the flash. And if I have the flash off camera, then I'm using a trigger where I do all the individual settings like flash power, zoom, because those are the only two things, right? Uh, but you can't adjust the flash power directly. So the FLM3, you can set the flash power, I think, between 1/64th and 1/1. So full power to minimum power, You cannot do that with third-party flashes. Third-party flashes, you have to set if you're using it manually, you have to set it on the flash directly. It's on Android and allows control of flash and LED. Okay. You're going to email me a screenshot. All right, let me check my email. It hasn't come in yet. Uh, check mail now. Okay, one did come in. Let me check my spam folder. I don't see it yet, Paul. If you sent it, I don't see it yet. Okay. Uh, yeah, the Godox, it is bulky. It is bulky, but it has a lot more features, right? It's a transmitter receiver trigger for controlling multiple flashes. I guess the FLM3 is to some extent, right? You can control 3 groups, but it's optical. It's not radio. This is a wireless 2.4 gigahertz transmitter, which is a little more reliable than the wireless. But the Olympus flash system is really good. But you're talking about just overall size, right? The FLM3 is really nice. It is very portable, and having that little bit of bounce, there may be some functionality, I guess, some use cases for that. And I just never used those flashes. I got like 3 or 4 of them in a box, never opened back there. But yeah, Seraphin, I think a lot of people are not happy about that, not losing the compatibility with an FLM3 for no reason other than maybe a cost cutting. Because the EM5 Mark II, to maintain that price point, they had to cut some corners somewhere. And definitely, if they can save a few pennies by not giving power to the FLM3, that's one. Two, it's very possible they changed the shutter mechanism to a cheaper one because it caps out at 6 frames per second mechanical shutter. So maybe they did a change there. And then also the on the hot shoe mount, there's no longer contact pins there, so you can attach an external grip, but with the shutter button, the ECG5, that's gone. So I think there's 3 places there that they cut to make the OM5 Mark II the same price as the OM5 Mark I. Now, none of those for me are deal breakers, but there's definitely some compromises there in the camera. The electronic shutter is obviously just on the sensor, so they're using the same sensor, but I suspect they're using a cheaper shutter mechanism that can only do 6 frames per second. I don't know why they would do that, but maybe that's part of the cost cutting. Yeah, and my email's rob@robtrek.com. That's my email. And wondering if the FLM3 incompatibility is due to the USB-C power delivery circuit being different than what's in the OM1. That's an interesting idea because the circuit board's going to have to be redesigned. And when they redesign the circuit board, maybe, yeah, there was some. See, this is where a little bit of engineering investment would have fixed that, right? It makes sense what you're saying. There would have to be some re-engineering of the circuit board to be compatible with USB-C. But why not take a little extra time and make it work with the FLM3? I mean, like I said, it doesn't bother me, right? Because I prefer a little bit more powerful flash. Either the I this is about the same size as the IM30. Uh, and the IM30 is more powerful than the FLM3. And this flash is even more powerful than the IM30, if I remember correctly. Uh, that said, it has the menu options for the FLM3, so I wonder if it's actually incompatible. I'm going to test it next week. Okay. I know. I should get mine this week. I keep checking my local camera store. I I just don't know. They said they're going to get them in this week, but yeah, it's not here. I think their deliveries come on Thursday. I'm kind of on the fence though about it. It does solve a lot of problems that I have with the M5 Mark III in terms of workflow, especially the My Menus and the custom settings, uh, and having the better IBIS and faster processing and potentially better autofocus. Well, I know it's going to be better autofocus than the M5 Mark III, uh, because the OM5 and the OM5 Mark II are basically the EM1 Mark III, right? A miniature EM1 Mark III, and the EM1 Mark III had a substantial improvement in autofocus face detect over the EM1 Mark II. That I can say pretty confidently. That's been my experience. The autofocus face detect was much better in the EM1 Mark III. The image stabilization, twice as good, going from 6.5 to 7.5 stops. And the processing of the high res shot and focus stacking, all of that was just a little better. A little better. I wouldn't say substantially better, but it was faster. So we'll see. Also, bottom plate loses the pogo pins. Yeah. Yeah, again, that was another odd choice. Why take away another legacy type product, the ECG5? So they took away the LM3, quote unquote, they took away the ECG5 option. Both of them not deal breakers for me, but for people in the Olympus ecosystem, they might miss those two things, right? For people buying the camera new, I seriously doubt they would care. But people already in the ecosystem that have an ECG5 and FLM3, because I think the EM5 Mark III, they included the FLM3 in the box. So that's another cost cutting, right? The EM5 Mark III came with an external charger for the battery and the FLM3. And the OM5 Mark One, they ditched the no, they I can't remember. Let me look. And I'm talking about USA. I don't know about in other countries, but it's easy enough for me to figure out. 1 second. So the OM5, yeah, they got rid of the external charger, but it did come with an AC adapter and USB-C cable. And then if you look at the, I have the OM5 Mark II in here somewhere. There's the OM3, OM3. Here's the OM5 Mark II. You know, it just comes with a cable. No, no power supply, like wall charger. So another minor cost cutting, right? Because the OM5 Mark I came with the AC adapter. OM5 Mark II does not. And if we go down to the original EM5 Mark III, the EM5 Mark III came with the FLM3 and came with an external charger. I mean, that's 150 bucks right here, right? I don't, you know, you can buy these used for about $50 here and maybe another $50 here, but at least $100 in value right there. And then going to the OM5, these chargers are like $5, $10. So that's gone and no FLM3. And then the OM5 Mark II, there's not even an AC adapter included. So a little bit of cost cutting there. I suspect the shutter, the pins, and the flash, you know, all those things. And that's how they were able to keep the price the same. Okay, and Michael, thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate that. Super chat from Mike. You are awesome. Uh, Supposedly a sales embargo until July 2nd. I already sold my original OM5 for a few $100. Was willing to spend to get the sand color. Yeah, I know the sand color, right? I'm kind of with you on that because FLM3, you know, the grip, because I use a third party grip on my EM5 Mark III, so I'm not too worried about because the third party grip, the bottom part is an Arca Swiss plate built in. So that I prefer that over the Olympus ECG5, which does not have an Arca Swiss plate here. So I'm okay with not having the pins. I'm okay with not having FLM3 because I prefer a more powerful flash. And now I really like this IT30. I'm going to do a review on this maybe next week or something. Uh, but yeah, July 2nd. July 2nd, really? Okay. Because some people got them, like the great Vanzini got his. He got his sand color already. Mike says, thanks for explaining third-party flash. I will stick to the FLM3, and I can control off-camera flashes too. I have the FL50R. Yep, you're in good shape. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Because I turned off all the advertising this week for my live streams, so no ads. Now, if YouTube, let me know if YouTube still puts ads in or not, but I turned them off on my end. And I have to rely on the 99-cent memberships, donations, and super chats, all of that stuff for my live streams. I'm going to try that for a little while. Let's see how it goes. And those things are removed to lower cost, I'm sure, but I doubt many bought the ECG5. I prefer third-party grips with Arca plate. Yeah. So you and I are like brothers from another mother. We think almost identical on a lot of things, right? Because I just said that. And now you're saying the same thing, or we said it at the same time, even. If we ever met in person, we'd be finishing each other's sentences, right? And Marcus says, I think that actually bottom plate is the same size, shape, and dimensions, though. So the basic full coverage Arc Swiss plate compatible plate should still work. Yeah, I think so too. I think all they did was bump out the grip in the middle, but the top and bottom dimensions should be the same. But maybe not. I mean, yeah, we're not sure though, right? I agree. And Roderick, B&H shows them as in stock. My local camera store said they couldn't sell them until July 2nd, though. Oh, interesting. I'm pretty sure the Great Vanzini got his because I was watching Robin Wong's stream, and I'm pretty sure it was him or one of the viewers that kind of go between me and Robin, uh, said they got theirs. But okay. But I'm digging that sand color enough that I just don't want to put 1,200 bucks on my credit card. I'm trying to pay off my OM3 right now. That's on my credit card at 0%, but my OM3, oh, because for 1,200 bucks, I could get a lens or something, right? Or put money towards my 150 to 400. I eventually want to get that. Oh, hey, when we were talking about LED lights, this is an expensive light, $170, but this is the same, probably the same size as that small rig one. Where's my ruler? I don't know where I put my ruler. It should be right here. I haven't moved. Oh, here. See how close I was. Yeah, 80 millimeters. Okay. So, Ethan, if you want to get an 80 millimeter size, this is for one of the more a 20-watt LED light. That's why it was like 160 bucks. That sucker's bright though. You can use that for I use it for flower photography, right? When I don't want to use flash, I use it for flower photography, and you can mount it on camera, of course, and it's bright enough to and diffuse enough to light up everything. And still pre-order at your local store. Yeah, it's not even on my local store's website. It is on another store's website that's local, but uh, it's pre-order on that one. But I'm pretty sure the camera that camera store will sell it to me in advance. I'm pretty sure they will. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to get them in trouble. I can wait. I can wait. I don't need it. I got my EM5 Mark III for now. Kind of get by. Now my OM1 here is my webcam. It's pretty pathetic. You can buy an OM1 for almost the same price as an OM5 Mark II, right? Used, certainly you can get a used one for the same price as a brand new OM5 Mark II. And it would be crazy to tell you to buy the OM5 Mark II when you can get an OM1 for roughly the same money, particularly on the used market. Brand new, though, I think they're 1,500 still. But it's definitely worth an extra $300-400 to get an OM1. Not the Mark II, but the OM1 Mark I over an OM5. If you're a very pragmatic person, right? You only care about uh, you want the most bang for the buck. The OM1 Mark I right now is the camera. The OM5 Mark II for me is just about the color. and the workflow upgrades in the menu system, the my menus, the custom settings. Excuse me. Also, the face detect autofocus, and probably the autofocus in general is going to be better than my EM5 Mark III. So it's actually a substantial upgrade from my EM5 Mark III. And having the USB-C port and being able to power the camera through it also solves my astrophotography. It also helps my astrophotography in the sense that it's a lighter weight camera on my OM1 than my OM1 is. So it puts less stress on my tracking gear, right? Every gram counts, so I'll get better stability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, okay, let me check my email again. Uh, I got one here that says, oh, I don't see any attachment though. So I got your email, but there's no picture attached. Maybe try again. Let me check one other place. Counts. Okay, checking email, nothing new. And I got an email here from Stuart. Says I'd like the option to quickly switch to video if needed. You have the OM1 Mark II. Recently came across a function button to do this. I'm sure you will know in mode 3 with lever position 1. Actually, still with use switching video mode. That seems to be a setting that I made in the video. I can make any of the adjustments. On the face of it, it seems um, so Stuart, I appreciate the email. I don't see a question here, but let me know how it goes. He's using the function lever switch to switch between video mode and photo mode. But Paul, send another email. I don't have any picture attached. I got your email, but there's no picture attached. Oh, thank you, Seraphin. I really appreciate it. A red down arrow with vertical words here. What is that? Maybe I think because this, I see it. When it displays over here, right here, I see the icon, but when I'm looking at it as text, it says a red down arrow with vertical words here. So thank you so much. And what is 1221 on KEH for an all-in-one Mark One? Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. So if you want the best bang for the buck, all-in-one Mark One, hands down. It destroys the all-in-5 Mark II. Uh, in terms of battery life and features, the FLM3 works. You can get a vertical grip for it. It is the professional grade camera, uh, hands down. Hands down. You cannot compare. I would argue, and it's only a little heavier, right? It's 150 grams, give or take, more in weight, which is not a small thing, right? People say, oh, 100 grams, 200 grams, what's the big? That's a big deal. 100 grams when we're talking about something only this big, right? Talking about somebody's body weight, yeah, 100 grams is nothing. It's a rounding error. But when you're talking about gear that's only this big, 100 grams is a big deal. David's here. Hey, David. Good to see you. I don't know why my chat stopped. Am I still live? Okay. My email was in response to the discussion on the live stream from Sunday. I was asking if this was a good option. Oh, okay. Okay. I can't remember. Hopefully I answered that question. I can't remember. But yeah, using the function lever is definitely an option. Uh, and David is sharing this page. Yep. I'm an affiliate for KEH. I rarely do anything. And it comes with the FLM3 flash. So you get the AC adapter, cable, and the FLM3 flash. And then I don't know if they show the bottom. They usually do, but they didn't here. But on the bottom, you can attach a grip, a real grip with shutter button and D-pad and joystick. The grip that you can get for this camera is really nice. And you can put an extra battery in there, right? So it's a legitimate vertical grip. You can't get a vertical grip on the OM5 Mark 1, Mark 2, or the M5 Mark 3. They got rid of the vertical grip option. The M5 Mark 2 had a vertical grip option, but not anything after that. Sent an Instagram that I didn't have your email address. Okay, I'll take a look. Let's see, Instagram. I do have a message here. So this is it. Wow, what do you got? A little microscope lens on there. And then you got these three tiny lights. Wow, that's interesting. Oh wait, Ethan, I keep forgetting your name, but yeah, you do the one of one images, right? Now I understand. And this is the microscope you were talking about in the uh, Sunday stream. Okay, gotcha. Whoops. Gotcha. And should have worked this time, I hope. Okay, let me take a look. Godox Photo. And that is an Android phone. I'd show you, but your email is showing too, so I don't want to do that. Uh, Camera flash LED. So this does it all. All right. Where's my phone? Godox Photos, search. It's just not showing up when I'd search for it. Maybe, did you get it from the Play Store or did you have to go to Godox's website? Let me try that. Because, when I do a search, I don't see it here either. But if I go to Godox's store directly, I don't have it here either. Godox Flash, Godox Light, Godox Action. Transform your tablet. Okay, that's a tablet app. Flash. LEDs. Camera. Maybe it's a third-party app that's combining all of those. I just don't see. Godox photo app. Yeah, this is on Apple. So Paul, do you have it for Android? So I cannot find this for Apple. I'm sorry, I can't find it for Android, but yeah, it's here for Apple. Okay. Uh yes, I'm one image I've been playing with the mic. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And worth every penny. It drives me crazy having commercials during the conversation. Cool. So yeah, I think seriously, all I have to do is make about $5 or sell a few things on my affiliate to make up for the advertising revenue because I only make like $3, $4 on advertising revenue from a live stream. And it really takes away from the experience for you guys, right? Of course, I can use that $3 or $4 too, but if you guys are all members or make a donation once in a while, it's pretty much the same for me. And I like doing it anyway, but uh, I have to leave the ads on for the videos though, right? But maybe the live streams I can cut them out because there's just not any money in live streams are the worst thing ever, right? I lose subscribers and I don't make any money. It's just unbelievable. If I let me look at how much I made on the last live stream, if it even shows. Yeah. So like this one, $2.94 minus one subscriber. This was my photo editing live stream. So I spent like, 2.5 hours because I remember that was a 2.5 hour live stream. I had to cut out a half an hour because I lost the audio. But yeah, I spent 2.5 hours to make $2.94. So that's fine. A lot of you guys are members too. So I'm getting 99 cents. Well, roughly 60 cents of that I get each month. Okay, it worked well the last time I used it. Allows you to control all the flash settings I have for Android. Okay. Yeah, because the bottom icons look like Android to me when from the images you showed. So maybe they did discontinue it and they separated flash and LED or kept, yeah, I don't know. But in either case, I wasn't able to connect to the IM30. So or the IT30. I may be missing something, but I don't see any Bluetooth certification either on the flash. 5 volt 2 amp input, blah blah blah. Yeah, there's nothing, no Bluetooth on this as far as I can tell. So I guess it doesn't connect. And Mark says, "Do you still have the Fuji?" I do. It's right over there. It's sitting. I have it mounted on a on a top down kind of thing. So I have my table where I can do videos of my tabletop for flat lay type things. I should take it out. I got such an investment in some nice lenses for it. I bought the 33 1.4, the new one, that WLRM, and the 55 to 300, I think it is, or is it the two? It's a 55 to 200, I think. Not the best zoom lens. The 70 to 300 would have been a better choice, but I decided to get the 55 to 200 because it's a little bit smaller, and the image quality is fine, as far as I can tell. I can't see. I would not need better than what it's delivering, you know. And then the 56 1.4 from Sigma for that camera is amazing. And then I also have the Viltrox 23 1.4, which is also an amazing lens. I mean, I got the 56 and the 23 combined for about 500 bucks. And then I got the 55 to 200 for about 300. The one that cost me the money though was that 33 1.4 because you got to have one halo lens. You got to have one like perfect lens for your camera system. At least that's the way I look at it. You know, if you're walking around with nothing but kit lenses, uh, with your like awesome camera body, you know, you're losing. You're not getting everything out of that camera that you could or that you should. So with every camera system, I try to have one halo lens, like one lens that I like the most. Uh, so for my Sony, I have the 55 1.8 Zeiss. My Fuji, I have the 33 1.4 LRM. And for my Micro Four Thirds, it's the 25 1.4 Leica. That's kind of my halo lens for that camera. You know, there are better lenses than that, but that's the lens I really like. And then the 12 to 40 Pro is really a good lens though. But I like the 25 Leica. And then the I don't have anything for my Canon or my Nikon though. My Canon, I just use the kit lens because I have not taken that camera out for one photo walk yet. And the my Nikon DF, I used to have a halo lens, but I sold it. It was my 35 f2 um, Zeiss Distagon. Sorry, it took me a while to get all that out. I had a 35 f2 Zeiss Distagon. That was my halo lens for my Nikon F mount when I used to shoot Nikon all the time. But I sold it because I just didn't use Nikon anymore. Just like I'm probably not going to use the Canon much. I really thought I'd be using the Fuji a lot more because it's a great camera. It really is a great camera, but when I can go out with my OM3 now, soon probably an OM5 Mark II, maybe I should trade that Fuji in for an OM5 Mark. That would be stupid. I've hardly used that camera. But yes, I still have it. And Mark says, I bought the XH1 because I love the sensor, that and the old 16 megapixel X-Tran. Yes. You know, if you buy a Fuji, you want to get the X-Tran sensor. They have some like X200s and I forget what they're called. But Fuji do have some Bayer sensor cameras out there, and they're perfectly fine. In a blind test, I doubt I'd be able to tell the difference. But you buy a Fuji camera for the X-Trans sensor because that's what's special and unique about it. Um, if you're going to buy a Bayer sensor camera, you might as well buy something that's a better value. But people pay a premium, I think, because of the X-Trans sensor and the film sims and all the other things about Fuji. I don't know how Fuji gets away with charging so much, and I don't know how they get away with the resale prices that you see online for their cameras. I really don't understand it completely. You know, I'm not surprised, but I just don't get it. Like that Fuji X half camera. Who else could sell a camera like that other than Fuji, especially at $800 or whatever they're asking for it? Nobody else could do that except Fuji. and get away with it. I almost got the XH2 a few years ago when it was like 800 bucks uh, on the used market. I don't know what they're selling for now. Let's take a quick look. XH1. Oh, still in that price range, $700 now. The XH1, 24 megapixel sensor, nice. And regular tilt screen with a little bit of side tilt. The top, LCD plate, which is beautiful. And this camera is smaller than the XH2. It's physically smaller and very, very comfortable in the hands. What's it missing though? Not really anything. Um, I will say that I watched the guy that has been using an XH2 forever since it came out. It is his workhorse camera. I don't remember the channel or the video. But I would he said that time to time the camera would freeze up. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but it was his main workhorse camera. He would take the battery out and put it back in when the camera froze up. He said there were some minor niggles too, but every camera has something, right? But the XH1, that's one of the best cameras that Fuji ever made. I would argue it felt better made than the XH2. The XH2 seems like a slight downgrade in terms of quality of the materials over the XH1. Maybe not. I don't know, but how it felt in my hands, the XH1 versus the XH2, the XH1 felt better in the hand, in terms of the quality of the materials. Holy crap, 1300 on the shutter. That's freaking amazing. Now the XH1 has a 24 megapixel sensor, not 16. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I misread that. Yeah, it's 24. The camera that I always wanted to get from Fuji was the what's it called? The X it was their first 16 megapixel like point and shoot. What was it? The X700 cameras Fuji or X70. I think it was a Fuji X70. Yeah, this puppy here. Look what they're asking for this effing thing now. When I was looking at it a few years ago, it was only $500. And I was like, that's too much. I ain't paying 500 bucks for this. Now look at it. This is what I mean. How does Fuji get away with this? I just don't understand it. But I wanted this camera back in the day, but it's okay. I just don't know how they can get these kind of prices for this camera, or how Fuji gets prices for all of their cameras, how they get those kind of prices. No, not the X100. Yeah. Unless you're referring to the Bayer sensor. I think the X100 Fuji. No, no, not though. That's their other rangefinder style. Yeah, not this one. I had one. I had the X100F just before the V came out. I didn't like it. So I'm kind of glad I didn't get the X70. I didn't like it. Uh so I got rid of that pretty quick. One day it'll crash, maybe. I doubt it'll crash, but there'll probably be a point where the price doesn't go up anymore, right? And it'll temper maybe down a little bit, but I don't think it'll ever crash. Seems like used prices on camera gear is all expensive. And Marco says if the XT6 has a fully articulating screen, I might sell my Panasonic gear and experiment with Fuji for fun. They make some pretty cameras. Yeah, I really like the XT3 because it's smaller than, and the XT5 now is a small camera again. It's back to the XT3 size. But the XT3 is a little bit smaller than the XT5 because it has the smaller battery. And it has the 26 megapixel X-Trans sensor, which is freaking awesome. That is such a good sensor. I had the XT30, which had that 26 megapixel sensor, and the quality of images I got from that, even from the 18 to 55 kit lens, was amazing. Which is why I'm surprised I'm not shooting at XH2 very much at all, because it's such a good camera. And that Grail is my Olympus 7. Oh yeah, the 17 1.2. My local camera store has a brand new one on sale for 700. I almost bought it several times as a backup. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. 17. I wonder if that would be, it's so expensive. I mean, I don't mind spending money on a lens, but if I'm going to spend some bucks, it would be on a telephoto, the 150 to 400. I spent some bucks on my 300 f4. All the primes, the wider lenses from 17 or from, say, starting from 12 up to 75, all of the primes are good enough for what I do. But my halo lens, the lens that I love, is 25 Leica and my 300 f4. I think the 300 f4 is probably more of a halo lens than the 25, right? But when we're talking about regular lenses, the 25 is my favorite. And yeah, that is definitely a bargain, 700 bucks. That's a $1,200 lens otherwise, right? And even on sale, I've never seen it down to 700. Okay, well, I think I'll wrap it up here. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all your support. I hope you like the new ad-free live streams, but hopefully we can make that up with some affiliate links and memberships and maybe direct donations. Uh, but that's up to you. It's great that you're here and with me today. I appreciate that. So everyone, be good this week. Take some pictures. Stay out of trouble. Eat healthy. Exercise. And if we all want to, I want to see you all again here. I'll be back on Friday for photo editing, and then on Sunday for normal photo chat. Uh, so you guys have a great, great week. I look forward to seeing you again.